Hello, America. Welcome to the Junto Podcast, where we promote the practical applications of critical thinking and bold creativity. I'm your host, Edgar Mills. Thank you for joining us. Hello, America. Welcome back to episode 52. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. All right, so today I want to talk about kind of not off topic, but we're still addressing some leadership stuff. But I want to talk about what I think the potential, effects that AI, because AI it's taken over, folks. It's taken over in a lot of sectors. But what are the effects of AI on sort of mid-management, mid-level leadership, which happens to be my target audience from two team guys, right? So I'm slightly concerned about that, in that, you're either going to have, we'll get to it. History, folks, just history proves that technological leaps, they disrupt the human life, the way we work, the procedures. It all changes, and the Industrial Revolution was that's the prime example. And it forces us, the market, to adapt to the technology. And that's not necessarily bad or good, but the old example, the horse-drawn buggy gave way to the automobile. Was that bad or good? I mean, but what that did was second and third order effects was it put blacksmiths out of business, and friggin' cowboys like stable hands and stuff like that. So it eliminated certain fields out there, a need for things. I mean, there's still blacksmiths, but they're very niche now in that industry. And there's still stable hands, for that matter, out west. There's still a strong cowboy culture out there, ranch hands and whatnot. But on the upside, though, right, you got new technology, which creates a need for, there's new requirements. So there's new learning opportunities and a new demand for different things. So in the example of the automobile, now we needed automotive engineers. We needed mechanics. And the assembly line came to be from the automobile. And then, in the 60s, but 70s into the 80s, computers, they kind of started. I'm going to tell you a thing. When I was in middle school and junior high, I had to take typing as a class on a typewriter. Yeah. But computers made that stuff, typewriters, but typists, that used to be a thing on a resume, is how many words per minute can you type? That's obsolete. It's obsolete. You don't need to type any. You can dictate and then have it read back, print back. The whole works. Bookkeepers, old school bookkeepers went away. Clerks and front desk people, that stuff went away. And the Industrial Revolution automated a lot of stuff. The textile industry, for sure, and like factory workers, all types of factories came to be. And then and robotics came along, to like automobile factories, way back, started going robotics. If you remember the 80s, there was a big deal about Japan taking over the auto industries because they were doing robotics to build vehicles. And yeah, so all that stuff, there's an upside and downside to it. And AI is doing what the Industrial Revolution did to many industries now. It's things are getting replaced. And every advancement, every technological advancement that comes along forces leaders, right? Never mind mid-level and ground-level workers. High-level leadership has to evolve. and mid-level, especially, everybody has to evolve to adapt to a market. You can stick to your guns and go down with the ship and then not be employable, I guess. But that's probably not the best way to do it. But however fast the Industrial Revolution moved, because it did move pretty fast, AI is moving exponentially faster, and those shifts are coming fast and furious. And like down to the automating, like thinking, you know what I'm saying? And like coordinating tasks that it normally takes a little team to do. Like AI is doing it now at scale. Yeah. And as a leader and as any industry leader, you have to adapt or die. So there's some patterns out there emerging. If you take the time to do a little research, this is what I did. I'm not a computer nerd. I'm not a business guy, but just a little reading the articles I read, the things I'm seeing it and happening. And if you're in some industry that's being highly affected by AI, you're probably seeing it faster than I am, for sure. But the financial industry is a big one. I mean, it's math. AI can do it. Yeah, AI can do it. I read an article. It's that financial managers, the things they do, their jobs and their tasks, up to 84% of their job can be automated through predictive analytics and algorithms, trading, stock trading, even on algorithms and whatnot. So that's a bad omen for financial managers. Retail, is affected to a degree. Manufacturing to a degree. Transportation to a large degree, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And logistics. All those are certainly going to be affected most by modernization, AI modernization. Everything from, and I'll just give you, for example, when I was 18 Bravo, I had to forecast ammo for the coming year. Well, actually, like a couple years out, which is very difficult. And what that did, it made it difficult for me, is I had to forecast ammunition based off of the training calendar. So you had to plan your training calendar out a long way. But the problem with that is that the training calendar constantly changed by no fault of our own as a team. You know what I mean? It was just, battalion and group level leadership, just, always changing priorities on you, always changing priorities. And then your training gets affected. So it was very difficult for me to accurately forecast ammo. I think AI, providing there are some parameters that are predictable, AI would be able to do that very effectively, no problem. Anyway, that was just a little side. But even stuff like, inventory management and assembly lines that have robots. Well, those robots, there's usually a human floating around somewhere. Like at some point, you're going to have 100% AI controlled robotic assembly lines out there that doesn't even require humans. And we'll make the counter argument here in a little bit. I'm just saying that's a possibility, possibly even a likelihood that those are coming. Routing and things like that. Are there still, I wonder if at the U.S. Postal Service, are there still human beings sorting mail? And if there are, I wonder why. Yeah, and just overall, like, supply chain optimization, right? You guys remember, how could you forget the COVID era? And everybody's excuse for poor performance, every company's excuse why they couldn't get you your product, everything was, supply chain disruptions because of COVID. Well, the supply chain didn't get disrupted, good people, really. Arbitrary, silly mandates or suggestions. Sorry, the government never mandated anything. They were all just suggestions. But those things, well, and that had an effect on the humans, which had an effect on the supply chain. Now, could that have been eradicated completely, like that? Those flaws and those disruptions had it been run by AI? I don't know, man. I don't know about that, but yeah, optimization of the supply chain across America would be good, I think. But even stuff like customer service, if it's truly automated but functional, would it get better results? If a chatbot, would you rather talk to a human who hoes and hums and, well, my job's really hard, we're really busy today, or a chatbot that says, stand by, I will get right on that and give you an answer. Hold, please. And then come back with an answer. Especially for, like, common problems, with whatever. And especially on large scale. How many of you love to call a customer service number and get a guy who sounds very, very, very Indian, who's named Jason or Adam? Nobody likes that. The administrative sector, right? The mid-level administrators, the literal paper pushers, and the clerical jobs, and like, even, I mean, I'm going to say probably even like, paralegals and like legal research, basic marketing. I've done episodes that addressed, like, AI, social media is what the ad agencies of the 60s were, or you can now, you pump your own stuff out there, creative stuff. Yeah, man. So many things. Market analysis. There's guys that get paid big money to predict any given market. There's people out there gambling on sports and, well, the stock market, right? It's sort of a gamble, I guess. I don't know. The insiders got all the answers on that. But they are all subject to heavy, heavy, heavy AI influence. And if that AI is not biased, right? If it's uncontrolled, I don't want to say uncontrolled in like a Skynet kind of way, but as long as there's no biases built into it and it's fair and even across the board, are the people, the insiders who profit the most from insider trading and that thing, are they going to want that to happen? If AI levels the playing field, are they going to want that advancement in technology? I don't know, man. I doubt that. And then various jobs that require, post-mission products or reports, written up, periodic reports, whether it's weekly, monthly, whatever, or post-operation or pre-operation or friggin' performance evaluations. AI is going to be able to knock that stuff out, man. Now, what about training-wise, simulated scenarios, right? On paper, of course, or on digits, but, to simulate what ifs, we're so wargaming. So you and your people, where you once sat around a desk and posed all these, and some guy was the devil's advocate, and you guys went back home. This stuff can be done instantly, just about, given the correct parameters. Yeah, AI processes information faster than humans do. That's the way it is. And all of these fields that I just named, and there's just going to be entire layers of the hierarchy there. If you once had a 6-tiered structure, that's going to be knocked down to about a 3-tiered structure. And just like when you got a shitty economy, what happens is you lose the middle class. You got the rich guys that are still going to be rich. The big company leaders are still going to be big company leaders. And then you got the ground level, poverty and above baseline workers, right? The peasants that do all the physical labor. And then the middle ground, that's going to disappear to AI. Very likely. Very likely. I'm not predicting the future. I'm just, in my opinion, I think that's coming to some degree. Yeah. Artificial intelligence creates repeatable, consistent processes that, and I don't want to say flawless because I don't know the numbers on all that. But it does, AI can go through a thought process faster than you can, especially with parameters, the right parameters built in, the right principles built in, and the doctrine and the things that, especially for whatever field you're in, right? Using this doctrine as your guide. What is the most efficient way to do this XYZ? Yeah, mid-level, man. Mid-level leaders are looking at the axe due to AI. Yeah, operational level people, operations managers, project managers. You know, the guys out there who were doing the task org and scheduling, shift scheduling and tracking performance metrics and doing evaluation reports and compliance reports. You're going to be removed and replaced by a user-friendly dashboard that, you hit a couple buttons and boom, you get the report you want. And real time, like up to date. You don't have to wait a year to get the compiled data from last year. And the government set the precedence for that, right? Compiling data at a snail's pace. I did the episode, what I did, oh man. The euthanasia episode I did about Canada's medically assisted suicide. And we had the numbers as of 2025. No, sorry. 2024. No 25 numbers have yet to be compiled. Well, like, does it take a year and a half? I mean, we're not quite a half a year in this. And, does it take a year and a quarter? With a computer and with AI, it wouldn't. Yeah, man, there's a lot of jobs are gonna sooner or later go away. These operational level supervisors who do audits, budgeting reconciliation, or just a budget at all, ammo forecasts, performance reviews. I've said that performance reviews like 3 or 4 times. If you just want to be cold and professional about it, you go off the data that gets input, and then you do the math. The computer does the math and gives you the report. The administrative side of the house, the front office, not the upstairs, right? Those guys ain't going anywhere. It's the front office guys and ladies. They're going to be gone. Entry level, like marketing people, entry level research people, sales coordination managers, right? AI is not going to replace a salesman. You still need a smooth, slick Willie to sell the product. AI is not going to do that for you. But the next level up, the guys who manage those dudes, AI is going to do it. AI can coordinate all that stuff. AI can synthesize the data and kick out, decisions, answers. There's a company called Gartner Inc. It's a U.S. based research and advising firm, and they focus on business and technology fields. They did a report and a forecast that by 2026, one in five organizations will use AI to flatten out that hierarchy structure and cut more than half of the current middle management positions. That's by this year. Let's just say by the end of 2026. Cut more than half of current middle management positions. And that they're calling the great flattening the structure. Well, who does that hit, man? It's the mid-level. That's who it hits. The middle class, gone. The people who were the conduit between the vision of the upstairs leadership and strategy, the conduit of the vision and the strategy and the broad execution. They were the go between the ground level guys in the warehouse, the workers or whatever, the executors. Here's how to execute. You go execute. The middle manager, they're the middle managers, right? The operational level leaders. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. They're the lube. They're the lube that makes it go in just a little smoother. That smooths out the friction points. And now AI does it. Now look, I think there's always going to be a need for humans, but we'll get to it. Now, there's certain industries that are AI proof, and they might be able to use it in some way to help make, billing more efficiency or customer service more efficient. I'm sorry, billing more efficient or customer service more efficient. But generally speaking, well, let's look at one that's kind of little column A, little column B. It's heavy in AI, but also heavy in personal touch. The healthcare industry. No matter what the advancements, and in the medical field, there are many. You see technological advancements there first because of the nature of what it is. We're allegedly trying to fix problems. But you need the hands-on people, especially with like trauma teams, paramedics. If a self-driven ambulance shows up and a robot gets out and starts triaging, and you got 2 or 3 people standing around screaming, like freaked out because their cousin just got shot in the chest. What? Yeah, man. You gotta replace a paramedic with any. Right? That's a human job. Now he may be able to learn his job more efficiently with AI. He may be able to use tools that are driven by AI. Or what about nursing? I'm thinking of a nursing home right now where at 2:00 in the morning when your great grandpa, who, you go see him once a month or something, and he's miserable and he's laying in bed and he shits himself at 2 in the morning. A nurse is who changes that bed. It's not a machine. I bet they wish there was a machine that could do it, but it's not. Nursing there's always going to be the human element. And what about therapy? Yeah, like mental, psychological, emotional therapy. Now, I've seen some things, I've read some things where there's a lot of people who are taking their problems to Chat GPT. And they're getting whatever fucking answers they're getting, but are we still in a phase where are we sure we can trust everything you're getting from that? I don't know. And how does it got staying power? I don't know. Now look, I generally speaking don't trust therapy, just overall. But I got to imagine that that's a very human thing. Now, and I told you guys, I like homie therapy. That's where I'm at. If I'm having issues, I go to a homie. Hey, bro, I got problems. What do you think? I'm not going to type in Chat GPT, hey, bro, I got a problem. Here it is. What do you think? Because I got nothing there. There's no connection. There's nothing there. Just words on a screen. So all those things, therapy even requires the physical presence, the face-to-face, the empathy that you might get from a nurse or a paramedic. The ethical conundrums that arise. There are some ambiguous situations that require, sometimes you may have to do a thing that on paper doesn't look right, but in the moment it's the right thing. That won't jive with artificial intelligence, most likely, especially in life and death situations. What is AI going to do? What is the algorithm going to do with life and death situations? I just don't think you can replicate that kind of thing. So yeah, I think the medical profession is gonna. Now that said, what about all these like medical record, people who manage the medical records? Those folks probably ain't gonna make it. That piece of the field is probably gonna go away, probably sooner or later, if not already. What's some other people who I believe are gonna? Everybody knows, right? The skilled trades, folks: plumbers, electricians, construction workers, general contractors who build structures. There has to be physical capacity there, along with technical skill on the site, right? On site. A computer, you might be able to AI up some blueprints. Now, if you draft blueprints for a living, that you might be on the ropes. You might have to learn how to adapt, your profession to that. But if you're a guy swinging a hammer, they're not going to be, and I don't care how deep the dystopia is, there's not going to be a workforce of robots big enough to replicate all the dudes who swing a hammer for a living. But even then, man, especially in construction, there's little decisions that need to be made all the time. Now, a lot of people don't give enough credit to people who frame houses and do handyman work, but it's tough. It's not, you can't, and even if you're dumb and everything else on the planet, you need to be smart in that. You need to know the kind of things, because you can make a mistake that will compound and have long-term effects. And then that house the inspector comes around every so often and you got stuff that's messed up on top of stuff that's messed up. You got to have a person to make those calls and have the skill to see what's going on there. Yeah, robots ain't going to be able to do that. I just don't think so. Now, speaking of the trades, and I'm sure a lot of you have read the same, right? That the desirability for the skilled trades is going through the roof, because unlike higher education in the college, in the academic sector, in the intellectual, so you get tangible results from learning a trade, and then you get sort of especially if you try to go into business for yourself, you spend a few years building up your experience, then you kick out on your own, man. And then you're not strapped with that debt that you get from these academic colleges. The tuition is just ridiculous. It's just, I can't remember, man. I saw some graph about the college tuition rise over the last 50 years versus the salary rise over the last 50 years. It's ridiculous. It's insane. And I'm not saying that the skilled trades are recession proof, but if your crapper gets clogged up, or if a pipe busts in your basement and it's the middle of a recession, well, you still need that pipe fixed. If a tornado blows the roof off of your house, hey, recession or no recession, you need a roof. Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on there. And then, now I don't know how true or not this is, but there's some reports that there's a higher job satisfaction on a job like that. Now, I've only ever done labor with those types of jobs, and I was very dissatisfied with it. I never had designs to run my own construction company, right? So I'm sure it can be rewarding. I'm sure it can, especially if you're getting the majority of the money back off that, right? But the study I'm citing here says that there's a higher job satisfaction than with desk jobs. Yeah, despite the physicality of it and despite being working out in the weather and stuff like that. Some men are just cut out to work outdoors. That's the way it is. Yeah. So I think and I'm gonna leave it at those. I mean, mechanics. it's hard to say is AI. There's a lot of computer stuff now. A lot of people complain about, modern vehicles where you plug in the sensor, it reads all the stuff, and then most everything that you have to do requires some massive, if one, yeah. So our mechanics starting to lose their domain to computers, and then coming soon AI. I mean, maybe, I don't know about mechanics. But we're going to do a little quick comparison to the trades versus, well, let's look at some median income. So administrative jobs, never mind the field you're in, just, the records keeper, right? That lags behind, right? Median income's 47,000, and median income across America, that's pretty low, and it's lower than most trades for sure. And there is not really not much growth there, right? If you're in that job, unless you're going to school at night, right, to get up to the next level or something, you're pretty much in a negative growth space when you're doing office administrative work. And again, in office administrative, we talked about it. AI is gonna push you out sooner or later. So, and yeah, not everybody's going to want to work in the trades either. There's some people who are not cut out for that. And I know this is odd, but here's another industry I think is nothing's going to become obsolete because of AI. It's just going to be used in a different way. And I'm talking about the military, specifically special operations, but the military in general. Now, first thing that comes to mind when I say AI in the military, to me, it's not drones. It's not, little robot dogs with guns mounted on them. It's the movie War Games from like 1980, 4, 83 or something, where the Whopper, that's the acronym Whopper, and I just can't remember what it stands for. But, the defense contractor who sold the Whopper to Cheyenne Mountain, to NORAD, space, military strategic air command. And it was like, yeah, we got to take people out of the decision-making process, In the very opening scene of the movie, there was a glitch, and all the nuclear guys got, or not all, just one, no, yeah, all the nuclear missile guys who sat in these little offices in these silos, and they had their 2 little keys. You turn the key, you hit the red button. Well, they got a real, what came across as a real order to launch a nuclear missile. And the opening scene, yeah, like the one guy was like, "Turn the key, sir," and the other guy's like, "I'm not gonna kill, 200 million people without confirmation." So, yeah, and then it cuts to, the stuff. So it turns out, yeah, the human error or the human reluctance to turn that key turned out being correct. So the defense contractor thought that was a problem. That was a flaw. Whopper would have launched those. It was good. You guys should watch it. If you haven't seen War Games, Matthew Broderick, it's very 80s thing to do. I love it. I watch it every so often. But like special operators, literal door kick. When I say literal door kickers, AI is not going to replace that. Now, yeah, bombs, man. Now we can just drone everybody. Yeah, that's true. That's true. We can. And they do. They drone a lot of people. But there's still, in Afghanistan, there have been times when we've been on an objective, my team, and all our assets were reallocated to a higher tier mission going on. And so now we're out there in the wild with our gun trucks and, yeah, good luck. Yeah, drones and AI might take over. You know what I've just recently seen is I think they fielded the first UH-60 Black Hawk pilot optional helicopter. Yeah, so automated full-size utility helicopter. I think that's interesting. I wonder if people are going to fly in it. I wonder if they're going to use it for people transport, or if it's just going to be used for something else. I'm like, I don't know what, delivering munitions, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, military stuff. There's always going to be a need for the good old beloved infantryman. Always. I don't care what anybody says. And then first responders. I talked about those a little while ago. Yeah. A cop shows up to a sort of a ambiguous dispatch call, and there's kids crying and some dude bleeding and some lady smoking a cigarette, raising hell. What's AI going to do? Go shut down mode? Crisis response teams. Now, when I say crisis response, I mean like hurricane relief. We saw what happened in North Carolina, folks, and they're still recovering from that. Still, the government shit the bed, and that's it, and that's all. No automation would have fixed any of that. And the fact of the matter, I believe, is that there's going to be certain educational roles. You can throw a lot of courses online, and you don't even need a real instructor to man them. The information's there. You read it. You do the stuff. But there's always going to be a need, especially in the military, but everywhere. There's always going to be a need, I believe, for personal mentorship, person to person, eyeball to eyeball, an empathetic and a caring hand who can guide young people, young leaders, young whoever, soldiers, who can guide and help and educate. Yeah, I think there's always going to be a need for that. I don't think AI is going to do anything with that at all. And then like small scale, like personal level services, right? I got a friend, Chris Wiley. Well, Chris and Dave, Chris Wiley, Dave Howard. They started Oz Pizza about 30 years ago, and they started in Decatur, but now there's 2 shops down in Fairburn, one in East Point, one in Fairburn. And, they've weathered the changes. They continue to persist 30 years, and they put a very personal touch on the restaurant, a very human touch. There's no way, Pizza Hut might be able to automate making pizza, I guess, but it's still it's a pizza joint. That's what it is. There's no space for AI there. They might be able to use AI to, again, payroll, like to make things more efficient on the back end, administrative stuff. But a pizza joint's a pizza joint, man. You need somebody who can sling pizza. You need somebody who can make sandwiches. You need a couple people to serve the tables, make the drinks. That's people. You need people to do that. And some people go to a place to have that connection. I don't even like the fountain drink. I don't even like making my own fountain drinks. Yeah, man, pour me some tea, man. How you doing? Yeah, I don't know. Small scale personal stuff like that is going to survive AI. I don't think there's going to be a thing for it. Coaching, sports coaching for sure, but like leadership coaching, like I was talking about with mentorship, these things that require a person with real time experience to relay that to a younger or another person. Yeah. And in those fields, right? Coaching, anything that thrives on genuine relationships. If you respect your coach, man, you will soak it in and you will become one of the best. And it relies on empathy and trust. You can't get a genuine relationship, empathy, or trust from anything, any digital thing, period. And then let's turn the obvious, right? Who wants to go get a massage from a machine? Not this guy. Not this guy. All right. All this stuff we're talking about, the hardest hit is going to be the mid-level administrative, operational level leadership, especially in these AI heavy sectors. Organizations are going to shrink their mid-levels. The middle class is going to go away. Yeah. And survivors of this AI takeover who are adaptable, they're going to find specific avenues where they can continue to add value. If you're a mid-level manager and you know it's coming, you become the expert in AI as it pertains to your field, and then you be the guy who's managing it. And that way you're the manager of the AI, not necessarily the manager of the people, necessarily traditional supervisor. Yeah. You used to pay attention to all your guys, your employees' output, and then you'd put the numbers on paper, check the little blocks, send them up. AI is going to take that away from you. But what AI can't do is look at the human interaction. So if they're still ground level dudes and they're dealing with these robots and these very rigid or even ambiguous instructions from some machine, and there's nuance there that needs to be interpreted, man, especially when it comes to ethics. Like I said, some things that the book answer might not always be the right answer. It might not always be the right answer. So there needs to be a human there to manage those ethical, dilemmas as they come up. And then there needs, the leadership. Algorithms can't encourage you. Algorithms can't foster resilience, right? Algorithms can't sit and listen to you over lunch talk about how you think your wife's going to leave you, and you give them the pat on the shoulder. Don't worry, bro. There's plenty of college girls out there. Nah, I'm just kidding. No, AI can't do it, man. AI can't do it. So there's always a need for people, but some depends on that job. But you become, if you're a mid-level person, you think that become the AI expert. Yeah, become the AI expert. Be adaptable. We've been talking about leadership lately. Effective leaders have certain traits and qualities: integrity, decisiveness, vision, right? Strategic vision. And in the AI era, adaptability, which is already a good leadership trait, but now we're talking about adaptability being a survival trait. And I mean a decisive one. Yeah. Now, I learned in my military career that overly rigid leaders or self-important leaders or guys who judge heavily others without looking at themselves first, sometimes they break down when conditions shift, when conditions change. And I'm going to tell you, I knew a guy. He was an E8. He was a team sergeant, and what I can't imagine now. I didn't come up with him in group, but we ended up in the same place at the same time. Well, not ended up, but we were in the same company at the same time. And I knew him because I knew I was buddies with some of the guys on his team, and I knew him to be a rigid guy to the point of like no personal phone calls during the workday from the team room phone. But now this was back when not everybody in the world had cell phones, even back before cell phone. Now you're not supposed to have cell phones in the team room even, but so I don't know if he'd ever been in a firefight or not, but our company was in Iraq, and this dude, they got in a firefight, and this dude literally froze up. He locked up. He couldn't move. He couldn't make a decision. He couldn't do anything. And the guy I know and love and respect and rest in peace, he took over and he said, "Hey man, you sit your ass right here. Don't move. Don't do anything like you're already doing." And then he took over, man, in the middle of a firefight. Now, this guy was a very rigid guy. He was so one, he wasn't adaptable. Yeah, he wasn't adaptable. And two, I don't think he was a very good leader. Be a good leader, even if you're a higher level leader, but especially middle, and treat artificial intelligence, especially if it's going to be heavy in your field. Now, I've said this phrase many times, folks. Treat AI like it's a force multiplier that adds value, not that it's overtaking anything, but it's adding value. You can be wary if you want, but if it's producing results, let it produce those results. And you become the manager, you become the master of it. You continue to work on your person-to-person skills, your emotional intelligence, and moral courage, and all the things that make human good leaders human, and your ability just to connect. And if you have those things, a machine cannot duplicate it. Now, on that note, everybody's seen the movie Ex Machina, yeah? They tried very hard. They're trying very hard now. I just saw a video with like a police robot dog. Was it a police robot dog or was it a military? I don't know. In some countries, there's no difference really, but that joker had a gun strapped to it, and it went into a building and started blasting a dude, you know. But that's not human connection. Ex Machina, that was a good movie. And it was all very convincing, man. It was all very good. But at the end, she may have been self-aware, but she had zero empathy for that poor bastard she left in the building there, and the dude that got killed. Now, I'm gonna jump off here for a minute to talk about this, and because it's weird, it's odd, but it's surprising, right? Who? Ex Machina, police robot dogs. What's the next thing you think about when you think about human robots or replicating humans? Yeah, the friggin' sex robots. They're out. Look, folks, they're out there now, and they're pretty high speed now, and they got full, reactive, body sensors on them, and they can converse with you. But as the AI gets better and more fluid, and they're able to have conversations with you that aren't, or that are unscripted, like and there's going to be an upgrade here in 20. Real Doll is a company, I think, and they're scheduling right now for a 2026 AI upgrade, and that upgrade is going to integrate your sex bot with all your smart tech in your house. This is already I don't know. I mean, in the scope of business, right? $500 million industry ain't much, but it's a very niche industry right now. But let's see. They're predicting in the midterm, right? What's the future, right? 2028, 2020, somewhere within the next 10 years, they're looking at the cost of production dropping, right? As things smooth out, the cost of production dropping. The emotional intelligence, artificial intelligence, and feedback dramatically improving. And then the ability to converge that with even better, humanoid robotics like in Ex Machina. And then even adding like sort of utility, not just a sex robot, right? They're saying that robot companions will become more normalized, obviously among the high income, right? Regular people aren't. For like these high level people who aren't married or do whatever. And then obviously the porn industry influence, right? These dolls are they're gonna give you your on demand, experience, right? All right, where did I see some numbers at? Because I'm quoting Forbes here on this. Well, this is from Forbes. So they're saying long term predicts robot sex overtaking human sex by 2050. I don't see that. VR, virtual reality sex toys becoming just widespread within the next, few years. And that guy's who knows, they described him as a futurist. And then apparently there's a lady who's an expert on what I don't know, Kate Devlin, who says that all that stuff's going to it's going to remain in a very niche market because of stigma and especially expense, and then a preference for human connection, right? That's what I think is right. But driving the growth in the sex bot industry is the progress in AI, people getting older, the lack of even wanting to go out and do face-to-face interactions, the ability to customize for whatever bizarre fantasies you want, things like that. And then there's already been, this ain't future, folks, this has already happened. There's been pushback and talk about regulation based on someone suggested and they produced these dolls that look like underage children. And they're like, hey, look, if you've got an unhealthy attraction to children, use the sex doll. Well, I don't think that's the right answer at all, but that's a concern anyway to be addressed for sure. And then coming along with that is privacy issues, right? Your sex bot, whatever data center is storing her information gets hacked. Now all your weird stuff is out there for everybody. There's all kind of things. And then the addiction. There's all kind of stuff, right? Just surrounding the AI and sex bot stuff. I wish I could. I thought I wrote this number down. I thought I wrote a number down, but I didn't. But they're predicting within the next 10 years that the AI sex bot industry is going to be a $1.5 billion industry. Yeah, well, so in that particular zone, right, that one niche market, but still it's there. The trajectory is it's going up, and it's the same innovation that's fueling the robot that goes in and shoots people. Yeah, it's the same technology. So yeah, man, like that's just a weird. I got off on a rabbit hole in that, and I was like, God, what? That's crazy. But then you look at movies like Blade Runner, whatever the one with Ryan Gosling. Do you want to? What's her name? De Armas. Is her name Anna De Armas? Do you want her hanging around your house? Some people do. But ultimately there's not the human touch there. And all these things are going to have some flavor of their creators, whatever in there, right? Like it's not a human. It lacks soul. It lacks real and true soul. And much like I don't think, there's going to be people that have sex with sex robots, but much like I don't think the sex robots are going to really catch on as far as mass appeal, I think person-to-person leadership is still going to be highly desired over I think AI ultimately is going to replace the mundane tasks, the math and compiling and analyzing data, the mundane. I think there's still going to be a desire and need for person-to-person leadership. Yeah, hostage rescue, direct action missions where you have to. There's ambiguous shit going on. You have to decipher and you have to do things. The medical trauma responses, things like that. Because people in these roles, and that's mid-level stuff, right? Dude kicking a door, you might be a team sergeant, maybe, or if you're a CAG dude, you might be a sergeant major, but of your troop, you know what I mean? You going in the room and killing people, that's mid-level, low-level stuff, really, as far as the grand scope of the leadership tier goes. But there's always going to be a need for that. You have to be able to read a person's expressions and their demeanor. Can AI read demeanor? You're going to have a sense of these sort of the morale of your people. Can AI pick that up with no words being spoken whatsoever? When you walk into a team room in the morning or whatever, and there's some dudes hanging around, there's a vibe, and you have to be able to read that. There's always going to need to be a human being to make ethically conflicted calls on the ground that preserves life. Yeah. So AI is going to give us the data, right? The logistics. But AI will not, it'll never be able to earn your trust and loyalty. Only a leader who's present and deserving and solid, who's earned your trust, can do that. And it's the trust that's built between two humans that compels teams to execute under unknown conditions or potentially deadly conditions. It's that trust that calms, sort of a panicked, board or corporate team during a massive market fluctuation where everybody thinks they're going to lose their job and go into financial ruin. That trust in your leader helps mitigate that stuff. I think there's going to be a sort of an AI fatigue. I think that's already here, especially with all the sort of on the artistic side of things. There's people who are digital creators and artists. They already have the AI fatigue. But technology advances fast and relentless, folks. It's always will. But human leadership, who present in the moment, adaptable, who leads by example, will be an irreplaceable asset that will underwrite any company's, success. That's what I think, folks. Those are my thoughts. Those are my uneducated thoughts on AI. All right. Hey, thanks for listening. Please give me your feedback. Please follow all the things. OspreyShootingSolutions.com. A lot of stuff. I've got things on the calendar out through June of this year so far. Please follow twoteamguys.com or go check out twoteamguys.com. My last episode was basically a sales pitch for Two Team Guys. Please, if you can, throw some change at the Help a Homie Fund, which is givesendgo.com/help a homie fund. That helps me help people out in the wild who I see that are in need. Maybe with a meal, maybe with diapers, maybe with some sneakers, things like that. So it's a charitable organization. Well, I'm creating it to become an organization. So please, if you can do. And then continue to listen to the Junto podcast, folks. Give me your feedback. Send me topics. Send me counter arguments. Send me guests. Yeah, send me guests. I'd love to have some guests on. I've had a few. It's not a regular thing. But yeah, if there's some compelling topics to talk about, let's do it. Other than that, reach out to me at Edgar Mills at OspreyShootingSolutions.com for any other questions or comments. All right. I appreciate you guys and I love you guys. Take care.